Hey YouTube, MJB here. We're halfway through 2020 at the time of creating this video. 2020 hasn't been the best year for humanity so far, but things could get a lot worse for us. We might have to face some events of apocalyptic proportions pretty soon. The main culprit, the very ground beneath our feet. You see, Earth's tectonic plates have been building up more and more pressure over time and haven't had a decent way of releasing it. Like pressure building up in a bottle of champagne ready to pop at any moment. Unfortunately, I'm also not referring to a single location where this could be happening. In Nepal, California and Chile, scientists are sending out warnings that we're not prepared for what's about to come. Their message is clear. We are overdue and are unsure how much more pressure the fault lines in these areas can take. We are talking about magnitude 9 or higher earthquakes, like the one that occurred off the coast of Indonesia back in 2004 and the one that occurred near the coast of Japan back in 2011. The epicenter of those earthquakes was thankfully at sea, but the fault lines in Chile, Nepal and California run through or near very densely populated areas. The death toll for the Indian Ocean earthquake and the tsunami that followed afterwards reached over 200,000 people. And this wasn't even the worst earthquake that ever happened in recorded history. The worst one happened in China back in the year 1556 in the Haozhou district. This earthquake, with an estimated magnitude of 8, was so massive that over 500 kilometers, or an area of 310 miles, was affected. The effects were so impactful that people around the world were speaking of the coming of the Dajjal or the Antichrist, and that the earthquakes were sent as punishment by the gods. Now, we have established that earthquakes are pretty bad by themselves. But even after a massive earthquake, your problems are only just beginning. Earthquakes near coasts can trigger tsunamis. A big enough earthquake in Chile can cause tsunamis that reach all the way to Hawaii or Japan. Not to mention that a big enough earthquake can trigger smaller earthquakes across the entire fault line, and sometimes even the entire tectonic plate. We've seen the devastations that tsunamis can cause in recent years, and those weren't even that big, like the tsunami itself was not that high. The biggest tsunami ever recorded happened in Alaska in 1958. This massive wall of water was over 1,720 feet or 524 meters high. This is about the same height as 5 Statues of Liberty or twice as high as the Ajura Towers in India. This particular tsunami was caused by a giant landslide. To make things worse, tectonic plates are hotbeds for volcanic activity caused by the friction between the plates. This is an area as large as 40,000 kilometers or 25,000 miles that spreads over 4 continents called the Ring of Fire. This area alone is home to more than 450 volcanoes, which is 75% of all active volcanoes in the world. Some of those volcanoes are classified as supervolcanoes. One of these areas is Lake Toba. Evidence has been found that a volcanic explosion there created this lake with a size of over 100 kilometers or 62 miles. This supervolcano exploded some 70,000 years ago, wiping out most of humanity at that time, and ushering in a 10-year lasting winter caused by the huge amount of debris that was spewed out. Over 2,800 cubic kilometers or 670 cubic miles was ejected, blocking out sunlight. Imagine not being able to grow food properly for 10 years. And to make things worse, the magma chambers of this supervolcano are known to have been refilling over time. The same is happening with the Yellowstone supervolcano in the USA, which is also showing increased magma activity. A large enough earthquake could trigger an eruption the world has not seen in the last 70,000 years. If Yellowstone were to erupt today, a large part of North America would become inhabitable due to the volcanic fallout. Just last week, an article was published that Yellowstone has been hit by over 70 earthquakes in the last 28 days, indicating increased magma movement. Other known supervolcano explosions have occurred in New Zealand, Bolivia and Argentina. So to sum it up, we're overdue for some massive earthquakes that could trigger tsunamis and volcanic activity that could wipe out a big part of humanity. But let's say that this all happens. You have a massive earthquake that then triggers tsunamis, volcanic activity happens, multiple other earthquakes, and you're lucky enough to survive all of that. Then you'll be facing a whole new set of challenges. With no infrastructure, food or medical care available, surviving would be tough. Diseases and food scarcity would become huge problems for future survivors, because a lot of people just don't know how to survive in the wild. But at least we wouldn't have to worry about taxes anymore, so that's definitely something. What would you do if such an apocalypse were to happen? Let me know in the comments. Feel free to subscribe for more videos, and as always, thanks for watching and see you next time.